Hey guys, Lisa Figueroa here, board certified criminal defense attorney in Florida. Here to talk to you about this All-Star Junior and Ben 10 situation. So again, another one I hadn't really heard about, but there was some kind of beef that started with a diss because someone got somebody's girl. I don't know. Let's watch the video.
I want him to know that you moved on to bigger and better things.
Hey man, he a cheater, y'all.
Oh, nigga, she made it. Oh. She made it.
Okay, so apparently there's a situation where there's this ongoing kind of beef, and then it just so happens that in Houston, so Jay Prince Jr. apparently from the video, there's some like this and back and forth, and it's like, it's on when I see you type deal. And then Jay Prince Jr. is somehow or some reason at a Houston restaurant with Ben 10, which I'm not sure why, but then All-Star finds out and goes to the restaurant. I can't remember all the backstory, but the bottom line is that I guess they're saying that Jay Prince Jr. gets his location at this event and pulls up with NBA Ben 10 and other Mob Tie members. During the altercation, then you see Mob Tie members, also Ben 10, attacking All-Star Jr. and they're trying to take chains off his neck. So All-Star Jr. is supposedly being attacked and then potentially being robbed, taking his jewelry from him. And then he somehow, All-Star, takes a firearm, maybe belonging to someone else, and in self-defense is the theory, right? You take a gun and then shoot, and then there's the shooting that takes place. All-Star Jr. then leaves the gun and takes off. That's what we heard. And then afterwards, you know, there's some stuff going back and forth online. There's some photographs of him no longer with his jewelry. And it seems like, and then Ben 10 got shot, right? So he's there. And at one point, nobody knew whether or not he was going to make it. And then All-Star takes off. Well, shortly after that, maybe not shortly after, but a while after, the police start investigating. They don't have all the information yet. And then next thing you know, who we thought, because of what we were hearing online, was the victim that was being robbed and attacked, All-Star Jr., was actually charged. He was charged federally, and I wanted to check out the complaint because it's interesting for a couple of reasons. All right, so he's charged federally, federal court. This is the criminal complaint. Harris County was Houston. I usually skip this first part, the introduction and the agent background. Every time they do these, they have the law enforcement, and I've been doing this for however long, and I have experience. But this one,
how long? 25 plus years.
I'm not talking about me.
Oh,
You're
my
talking
bad. I'm like,
no, I'm talking about the cops in there. So the cops in their little thing, they're like, you know, I've been doing these kind of cases for how long, to kind of substantiate why they're saying it. And I was going to skip past this, but this one was interesting because it said, I hold a Juris Doctor degree. That's what, you know, they give you for law school, a JD, from New York Law School. And prior to joining the FBI, I was an attorney for over 5 years. I'm like, oh, so it's a lawyer cop. And he's currently assigned to the Violent Crimes Task Force in Houston, FBI special agent, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on with the standard stuff. But I thought that was interesting because that's not so common. Anyway, so then it goes on and talking about the affidavit against Jeremy Christopher Ford, aka All-Star Jr., and that he violated, and then look what the charge is: felon in possession of a firearm. That kind of sucks, right? It's because it's not clear that he had a firearm with him. He just had to get one because of the altercation that was taking place. Whether or not that can be a defense, that's kind of the downside of when you're a convicted felon. You're not allowed to possess a firearm, ammunition, any of that. And then when it's charged federally here in Florida, if you are found to be in actual possession, it's a 3-year minimum mandatory. And minimum mandatories, I hate. I mean, it's mandatory. It means day for day. You don't get any gain time. It means it's mandatory. The judge doesn't get to say, well, hey, you know, I'm sorry you have no prior history, or maybe you have a really sob story or explanation. It doesn't matter. The judge has no authority to go under the minimum mandatory unless the prosecutor agrees. So the prosecutor gets to play God in that situation, yes or no. And a lot of times they're not willing to waive the minimum mandatory. 3 years in Florida on a state case. I don't know what it's like in Texas, but in federal court, it's a 10-year man. 10 years. And anyway, so let's hear what the allegations are. It's a max 15, but 10 minimum. So there's no going below the 10 unless for some reason the prosecution is willing to waive that, which is rare, sadly. Unless you're... All right, so here's what their probable cause they claim is, that Ford violated the statute for a felon in possession, which again is odd. This has nothing to do with any kind of aggravated assault, aggravated battery, attempted murder, none of that, which potentially could still be charged. You can be charged in federal court with one thing and also charged in state court. But they put that on April 8th, 2026 at approximately 11:23 p.m. Officers with Houston Police Department responded to a shooting in progress at a restaurant located on Kirby Drive. Upon arrival, officers observed an individual identified for purposes of this affidavit as John Doe number 1 on the ground inside the restaurant with a gunshot wound to his neck. Officers also observed a trail of blood leading from the main dining room to the elevator and a larger pool of blood in the elevator. The blood trail continued into the parking garage where officers observed another individual that was John Doe number 2 with multiple gunshot wounds to his hand and leg. John Doe number 1, John Doe number 2, that's when they don't know their name, right, were transported to Houston Fire Department. The suspect, subsequently identified as Ford, fled the scene before police arrived. So that's kind of, flag number 1 is a problem. So he fled the scene. He didn't stick around to talk to the cops. But I mean, hey, if people are coming after you, you're not going to stick around because you're afraid of what they might do to you. But then the question will become, did he call law enforcement after? Hey, I just almost got robbed and this is what happened. But I can see why he might be afraid. All right, so at the scene, officers located and recovered a black Glock 43X handgun bearing serial number, 1 Glock magazine, a black firearm holster with blood on it, 10 fired shell casings with blood on them, 2 fired bullet projectiles with blood on them, and bullet fragments. And that was all tagged by the HPD. Officers retrieved videos of this incident via security camera footage provided by restaurant staff and provided copies to the FBI. Upon reviewing the footage, I observed Ford, so then they see All-Star Jr., at a table in the restaurant with a female. Ford and the female get up from the table and walk out of the frame toward the elevators. And then he re-enters the frame and appears to be talking on his phone. A group of individuals follow behind him. The group begins to crowd around Ford. So, okay, that right there is indication to me if like a group starts crowding around you, that person might then be in fear. I'm trying to think of where does the self-defense potentially play in, and appears to be talking to him. But if they're just talking, they're just talking. It leads to an altercation that prompts an unknown male to get between the group and pull Ford away toward the elevators. Ford can be seen in the shirt with LV on the back. As this is happening, John Doe number 1 and another individual, John Doe number 3, walk into the restaurant and follow quickly toward where Ford exited the frame along with the others in the group. So they're coming after All-Star Jr. The group then re-enters the frame and Ford can be seen struggling with John Doe number 3 and John Doe number 1, who appear to be trying to remove Ford's necklace.
Wow. Wow.
John Doe number 2 joins in to help John Doe 3 and John Doe 1. And John Doe 3 removes Ford's necklace and rushes out of the restaurant. So he just got jacked for his necklace. The struggle continues. John Doe number 2 appears to remove Ford's watch and put it in his pocket. Now, the question becomes, can you use lethal force to keep yourself from someone robbing you or stealing something? You have to be afraid of imminent, like immediate danger of physical harm, and whether or not it's enough. You can't protect your property. You can protect yourself. You can protect others for fear of like that great bodily harm is going to be done to you, but you can't use deadly force to protect property. If somebody breaks into my house, even though it's my house, and let's say they're stealing a TV and they're walking away, they have their back to me, they got their hands full with the TV, I don't get to shoot them. Some people might, But that's not lawful. That's not self-defense. The person's not a threat to you. Yeah, they're stealing your TV. Oh, but they were going to take my TV. You don't get to shoot the person just to stop the TV. So at what point can he take a gun in order to, you know, not if it's to stop them from taking his watch, but if he did believe that they were going to potentially hurt him or shoot him or do something that would cause great bodily harm, that would be different. So that would be the angle they would have to go. Ford and John Doe begin fighting, with John Doe 2 and others in the group joining in. At some point, what appears to be a handgun falls to the floor from someone in the altercation. Ford then falls to the floor where the handgun fell, and he picks it up. He begins firing as everyone starts running. All of that seems kind of explainable. So one of the problems with, if you're a convicted felon, you can't have a firearm or possess it. And under at least Florida law, stand your ground, and usually every state has some sort of provision that you don't have to, the reason it's called stand your ground is you don't have to retreat. I don't have a duty that I have to leave. It used to be that we had a duty, unless you were at home, you had a duty to try to get away before engaging in that kind of altercation. But you have the right to stand your ground. I don't have to retreat if I'm somewhere that I have a lawful right to be. So a restaurant is one, and I'm not committing a crime. That's the part where it gets a little trickier. So if you're committing a crime, in this case, they're going to say he was possessing a firearm when he's a convicted felon. So that's an unlawful act. He has a duty to retreat. He doesn't get to just stand his ground. However, then there's also an exception to that, because even a criminal or someone committing a criminal offense still has a right to defend themselves against serious bodily harm or imminent threat of death. So if they believe that in that split second that was all he could do, he would still be within his right, self-defense. But does that excuse the possession? Maybe. You could argue a necessity defense, maybe. So he begins firing, and then the other people, that John Doe number 1 appears to have been shot, immediately collapses to the floor, initially on his side before rolling onto his back. And then they show some pictures here. It's page 5, and you can see where he's shooting, and people run out of the frame toward the elevator. Ford continues shooting as everyone is running away and shoots additional rounds in John Doe's direction. I think that's going to be problematic, but if there's shooting going on after people are retreating, you can only do it when you believe there's imminent. And then it looks like he goes back. This is the worst part of it, is page 6, where it says Ford returns to where John Doe is lying motionless on his back and fires another 2 rounds at John Doe number 1 from a few feet away. John Doe's body jolts suddenly as one round appears to strike him before going motionless again. Ford paces around the floor for approximately 8 seconds as the female he's with attempts to interact with him. I'm sure trying to like calm him down, figure out what we're doing. Ford then fires another round, yikes, in John Doe 1's direction and exits the frame toward the elevators. Approximately 20 seconds later, Ford returns to the frame, still holding the handgun. Oh. Ford points the handgun at John Doe, who appears to still be unconscious on the floor. Ford appears to attempt to fire another round at him, but the handgun slide appears locked back, indicating it's out of ammunition. Yee. Ford then stands over John Doe 1 and strikes John Doe number 1 in the face with the handgun. Oh, he really didn't want no witnesses. I don't know, but he's on video. Upon doing so, the handgun falls to the floor behind Ford. Ford walks back, picks up the handgun, returns to John Doe, appears to spit on him. He really has it out for him. Ford then exits the frame before returning briefly and exiting again toward the elevators. Another camera angle shows individuals running into the elevator during the shooting. Prior to the doors closing, John Doe number 2 can be seen rushing into the elevator and collapsing inside as blood sprays from his leg. Shortly after the doors close, Ford can be seen walking into the frame holding the handgun. And then there's pictures of him waiting outside the elevator. Ford then walks around briefly by the elevator before exiting the frame back toward the restaurant. And then a third angle shows Ford appear to wipe down the handgun. That's consciousness of guilt. The prosecution will argue. But before placing it on a shelf on a counter behind what appears to be a hostess stand. And then Ford ultimately fled the scene in a white Cadillac Escalade. Cadillac Escalade.
Cadillac Escalade with the chromed out nose.
That
Why you say that?
was my favorite song in law school. Anyways, all right. With an unknown license plate before police arrived. The FBI believes Ford to be back in the Detroit area of Michigan. So he took off. Hospital staff advised officers John number 2 had his right index finger amputated, yikes, due to a gunshot wound. And that they were working to repair destroyed arteries in one of John Doe's legs, John Doe number 2. And then John Doe number 1 is being treated for multiple gunshot wounds as of April 15th. So I imagine those charges could potentially still be forthcoming because, again, this is just the federal case related to the gun possession. HPD later learned a third individual was shot during the shooting and left with a non-life-threatening wound to his buttocks. Based on review of the video, this individual appears to have been a restaurant patron standing in the bar area who did not take part in the fight.
When I was getting me some food,
So it just kind of happened to be
now, the
there.
best way this dance can work.
Following the shooting, Ford, who's also known as the rapper All-Star Jr., posted multiple videos to his social media page taunting John Doe number 1.
Point them toes up, right? You spread a little bit. That's spank you. And you just jump a little bit. Do the BNT, do the BNT, do the BNT, do the BNT, do the BNT. And there y'all go. BNT challenge, man. Hey, the best BNT challenge, man. $20,000 BNT challenge. Best BNT challenge, man, to go viral. Let's get it what?
And others in the group he believes to have assaulted him. So he feels he was the victim of the crime, right? You guys assaulted me, and you got what was coming to you because of what you did to me, which could have been a decent defense, except for certain things that went left. On or about April 15, 2026, Ford recorded and posted a music video referencing the shooting at the restaurant. Oh, no. Shout out right there in the restaurant. Now I'm 2-0. Ford also appears to reenact the shooting of John Doe number 1 in the video. Oh no, that's not good. That will definitely be coming in when Houston decides to charge him, if they do, if the John Does want to prosecute. And sadly, a lot of times with these, people don't, right? Snitches get stitches. People don't want to come forward. People don't want to prosecute, but I would expect they eventually will. I reviewed Ford's criminal history and found multiple arrests and criminal charges, including a 2014 conviction for a felony second-degree home invasion in Michigan, resulting in a sentence of 18 months imprisonment. Accordingly, Ford is prohibited from possessing a firearm in the United States. And then this line, this is how they make it federal. Again, federal is a crime that involves multiple states, a crossing of state lines. So then they have this last line on April 16, 2026, a representative of Glock, Inc. Executed an affidavit that this Glock 9mm firearm is manufactured in Smyrna, Georgia, and Austria. The Glock Ford possessed, therefore necessarily traveled in interstate or foreign commerce before arriving in his possession. Boom, now you're in federal court. So if you buy a gun locally that was manufactured locally, this could have never risen to the level of federal court, but that just doesn't happen because we know they come from anywhere else, which means they can selectively prosecute things either in state court or federal court. And it's just really a dangerous thing on many levels. Anyway, that's it for that. I thought it was interesting. Thanks as always for bringing something new to my attention I hadn't heard about. We'll be following to see what happens. I anticipate that there may be charges filed out of the Houston jurisdiction on the state level. But for now, they're definitely trying to hit him with this 10-year man in federal court. And we'll be back with some more videos soon. Take care.